Today's show is brought to you by Audible, and right now you can get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/joined-up. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle or MP3 player. Thanks for tuning in to the Joined Up Writing Podcast, a weekly show featuring interviews with fantastic authors sharing their personal stories on how and why they write. There's hints and tips for aspiring writers and great book reviews from top bloggers. Follow us on Twitter at JU Podcast. Right, cue the cheesy theme tune.
Put down your pen and stop your typing. Grab yourself a drink, 'cause it's Joined Up Writing.
Hello and welcome to the Joined Up Writing Podcast, where a little procrastination can go a long way. I'm Wayne Kelly and it's episode 78 with Dave Olner, author of funny, twisted romance The Baggage Carousel. Dave's got lots to say about the benefits of taking several years to polish your novel, the dreaded synopsis, and why it pays to practice saying the word epistolary. There you go, that's why. There'll also be time for another trip to Book Bloggers Corner with show regular Catherine Sunderland reviewing How I Lose You by Kate McNaughton. Before we crack on with the interview today, a little update from me. I'm making the final edits to the first 3 chapters of my novel, Safe Hands, about an ageing safecracker who can open any mechanical safe using only a heightened sense of touch and not a stick of dynamite or a stethoscope to be seen. I should have practiced saying that word as well. And I have to rewrite my synopsis, which I hate doing, and as alluded to in the intro, Dave does have a few tips that came out of our interview. So why am I doing this? Well, I'm getting the book ready to submit to a novel writing competition, and the requirement is first 3 chapters and a synopsis of 600 words or less, and it's a challenge. So if any of you are out there and you've got any hints or tips you'd like to share, then please do. I also wanted to mention a great little writing insight that's worth reiterating, and it's something that I heard Charlie Brooker talking about on the most recent Adam Buxton podcast. For those of you who don't know, Charlie is the writer and creator of Channel 4 and now Netflix series Black Mirror, and as well as writing and presenting loads of other funny and acerbic TV programmes like the always entertaining Screen Wipe. Anyway, Charlie made the point that it's really easy to get discouraged during early drafts of a project, especially when you read or watch something that's been finished. You can't help but despair at the thought that the thing you're working on is just inferior and that you could never create something as beautifully crafted as the TV series, film or book in question. But that's the thing we often forget. We only ever get to see that finished, polished product and seem to think that it just popped into the world fully formed. And I even jokingly asked today's guest how long it took to write his novel because it's just so tight and polished, and I was not so secretly pleased when he told me the amount of time and effort he put into it. So I guess I'm saying stop comparing your early drafts to these hand-polished gemstones and get back to the mind to work on your own drafts. Right, let's get to today's chat with Dave Olner. Dave likes to travel, in his words, relishing the opportunity to alienate people from different cultures. He currently lives in Humberside, where he works as a reach truck driver by night and sleeps during the day. And as he says, like a vampire, except without the bloodletting, immortality or superhuman strength. And The Baggage Carousel is his first novel and is out now, published by Obliterati. It was great to chat to Dave and I did chuckle throughout. Alright Dave, thanks for joining us on Joined Up Writing. Really appreciate you taking the time to do it. How's everything going? It's congratulations on such a great debut.
Thanks a lot, Wayne. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, it's all going all right at the minute. It's just it's kind of like uncharted territory for me, so I don't really know what's going on, but it's definitely an interesting time.
That's the best way though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So for people that don't know, so tell us about your book, The Baggage Carousel. Tell us a bit about it and kind of where it sort of came from.
I always struggle a bit with this. You're supposed to do like your elevator pitch, aren't you? But
don't worry. You've got it out there now. You don't need to pitch it to me. Just give people an idea of what it is.
The thing is, like, I don't even know like what genre it is really. I don't even know what to tell them about that. What would you say it was?
Well, I was going to ask you that actually. Yeah. It is quite hard to explain, to be fair.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of like a dark comedy stroke twisted romance, maybe? Would
Yeah,
you say?
'cause
With some travel
think-
log thrown in there as well?
Yeah, it's a bit of a hodgepodge, really. Isn't it?
The
Oh
way-
yeah, because I think I heard. I think Nathan was. It might have been on your podcast actually.
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
calling it. He was calling it like a twisted love story. So I thought I'm going to use that. So I've just been saying that it's a twisted love story. But yeah, kind of like with dark comedy elements as well, and then as you said, a bit of travelogue type thing.
Tell us. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about like your main character?
All right, basically the main character is a fella called Dan Roberts. And it's got kind of it gets into it as the novel progresses. You find out more about his background, but he's had kind of a not a very good childhood. So he's like, his kind of coping strategy for getting through life is he likes to just escape whenever he can. So he goes off traveling whenever he can. And that's the way the plot kicks in is a backpacking around in South Africa, meets an Australian girl, Amber, the secondary character. The bit of a holiday romance ensues. Then basically he gets back home. She kind of like says into commentary she didn't want to know what to do with him, and then it just spirals from there really.
Literally and I'm not just blowing smoke up your backside, but literally from the first page, it has really got me. It's really, apart from anything else, the thing that always sucks me in anyway is humour, and it's funny like right from the get go.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
And I definitely encourage people to read it on the basis of that. But it's also got a really interesting structure. So, again, for people that don't know, so you're sort of telling it from a couple of different perspectives and in a couple of different ways, aren't you? So you've kind of got these emails that keep popping in that are kind of, they're kind of like present day, aren't they? In terms of it's your main character writing to Amber, and she's basically just not replying, and he's not getting anything back. And it's quite good because, again, I don't want to spoil anything. So the whole time you've got that going on, you're going, well, why isn't she replying? What's going on? But then kind of what you're doing on the back of that is you're flicking back and you sort of telling the story from the perspective of Amber of like actually what happened. And so we're following that bit by bit. So you kind of, the two stories are kind of moving, one's moving forwards and one's moving backwards, and they kind of meet in the middle. But it's really, really good. And as I say, I don't really want to spoil it, but like you say, at the same time, you're revealing lots of stuff about your main character and why he's like that and what may or may not have happened. But it's really, really entertaining read. Got through it really, really quickly.
Oh, thanks. It's basically it's quite a simple premise, isn't it? It's like boy meets girl, boy loses girl, but then somehow I've just managed to make it as complicated as possible.
Well, that's kind of, I'm going to ask you a couple of things. So I'm guessing that you, on the back of it, you've travelled quite a bit yourself, have you, first of all?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
So
The basic premise of the story is actually like true. That happened to me, like the holiday romance with the Australian girl. But then she didn't respond to me when I got back. But then after I fired a couple of emails off, but then I just let it lie. But so it's like for the purpose of the novel.
You avoided being a stalker.
Yeah, well, I was a little bit of a stalker, but then nothing getting into too much trouble.
Stalker light.
It's just like I couldn't really fully commit to it. But then so I just tried to imagine like if the same thing had happened to somebody who wasn't as mentally well balanced as I obviously am. That's how the story came about, basically.
Honest doctor. So from a point of the structure then, so when did you decide that you were going to write it in that way? Is that something that came out of a long time of editing and revisions and stuff, or right from the get-go you thought, I'm going to write it like this?
No, it's changed so much over there because I started writing it years ago, and I just used to put it to one side and I get back to it and tweak it a bit. And it's like originally when I first started writing it, it was all going to be emails from Dan. So it's going to be like what do you call it, like an epistolary novel or something. Yeah. So I had
I'm glad that you said that word because I never get it right.
I was struggling a bit there. I thought I was going to mess up when I said it.
You got it. You hit it straight away first time.
You try it.
No. I tried it before we came on because I thought I know that's the correct term. I was probably just going to say something really offensive, so I stopped myself. I'm glad that you did it.
All right. Yeah. So it started off like that, and after a while, I thought, like, what am I doing to this? And here it's like, it's my first attempt at writing a novel. I'm just like deliberately trying to make it as hard for myself as possible. And so then I was putting in more, I was adding in some chapters as well from Dan's perspective. So it wasn't just all the emails. So I thought a bit tedious after a while. And then I put those chapters in from Dan's perspective. And then at a later point, because I was sort of thinking, like, Dan's like sending all these emails and writing all these chapters where he's just slagging Amber off, and it doesn't seem right in a way that she don't get a day in court. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just rather than he said, she said, it's just he said, he said, he said, he said.
Yeah.
So like, I tried like writing a few chapters from the Amber's perspective, and it was kind of like a bit of light relief actually, because long I've been like stuck in Dan's head. He's with a dark, tormented soul, and then Amber's chapters, they were like flowed a lot easier because they're kind of like similar characters in the way they're both like a bit sarky and a bit jaded and that. But
and they've both had stuff, haven't they, in the past that's happened to them that's kind of shaped them. Yeah,
they've both got issues, but like with Amber's chapters, it was more like the humour was coming from a lighter place, so it was more refreshing to write her chapter.
Yeah,
and so it shows you how much it can change in the process, because like originally she was just like the villain of the piece, and by the time I finished, I liked her the best. Yeah.
It's sort of like you discovered the characters, I suppose, as you went along. Really, did when you set out writing it, did you sort of know where you were going to go with it? Did you have an idea of how it was going to?
I was just totally winging it, to be honest with you, Wayne. Because like
threw yourself into it.
Yeah, I just it wasn't even like a preconceived career path or anything. I'd come back from a trip, and I used to kind of like do like agency work. I used to, as soon as I had enough money, I just disappeared, like go traveling again, come back, pick up another job. And it was just one time where I don't know what the circumstances were exactly, but I was struggling to pick up a job, so I was just getting a bit bored, like, so just had to go at writing a novel, something to do.
Yes, you do, yeah.
yeah.
Well,
now look at me.
Exactly, yeah. You're riding the big time. But yeah, I mean, what I think is quite good about it is that it's raising questions all the time. I mean, that was the good thing. I mean, obviously, once you eventually found your way into that format, the whole time you're reading, depending on whichever side of the story that you're reading, whichever perspective that you're reading, you're constantly thinking, well, hang on a minute, how did it get to that point, or what? If what? Again, I'm not going to spoil anything. But what if anything went wrong? Yeah, and or has something happened to Amber? So I think that works really, really well. So when you said, so you were off on your travels, obviously you got this wanderlust, and you're going here, there, and everywhere, or whatever. Did you ever do any kind of writing or anything while you were away, just like keeping a journal or recording where you were going or anything like that?
The first couple of trips I did, I remember like the first trip I went on, and it's like my mum got me a travel journal, and I thought, obviously I thanked her for that, but I thought, a bit poncy, I don't think I'll bother with that really. But to be honest, like sometimes when you have downtime, and it's just like my first trip I went to Australia, actually. Yeah. I think like a lot of Brits go there the first time because it's pretty easy, and it's just basically like England, but nicer weather and scenery. And there were just like odd days, where you just like, this every couple of days you're in a different place. There's a lot to see, and compared to your mundane life back home, there's a lot going on, isn't there? So there were like odd days where I just were like crashed out on a beach, and you just write stuff in your travel journal just to try and make sense of it all, really.
And so, and before that, before you'd done that, like, I mean, you say that like you just do that, but like a lot of people don't do that. They won't even think to do it. So before that, had you done any writing, or had you ever liked, it's something you've been interested in when you were at school? Where did that all come from? How did you get into writing in the first place?
No, I weren't really. All these people are always like knocking off short stories. I entered in competition. I would never like that. I was good at English at school, right? But then I never really pursued it. Just kind of fell by wayside.
And why do you think that was? I mean, was it anything that like ever? I mean, obviously it must have appealed to you at some stage, because you ended up, sitting down and trying to write a book, and then writing a book.
Yeah, I think actually, tracing it back now, I'd never really thought about it before. But I used to, because I was doing the backpacking, I used to send those like group emails. I think they've like died a bit of a death now, haven't they? You know, those like round robin emails.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. And, people used to read them and say, "Oh, you know, you should write a book or something." maybe that's where it all started. I never really thought about it before.
It got you kicking off, thinking, you just kind of like naturally like to write stories. So you said you've been like writing it for a long time, and I think I kind of joked about this on Twitter, but I'm kind of glad that you said that, because I was really annoyed when I started reading it. I just had it in my mind, because it's, again, for people that haven't read it, it is really, really tight. It is like really, really, really polished. Yeah. And I was thinking, please don't say like he just dashed this off in like a few weeks or something, because I'm like furious. So it's good. Well, it's good.
It's been going on for years, but it's not like years as a continual process.
No, I get it.
Like you put it to one side
because you're doing other stuff. You've been working and stuff like that.
Your life concerns, haven't you?
Yeah. So in terms of like the journey to publication, like, because I think Nathan mentioned when he was on the podcast last time, I think he met you on met you online. That sounds a bit dodgy, but he met you on was it Autonomy or whatever it was called?
No, it was Grindr.
Oh.
I'm only joking. Yeah, it was. I should have mentioned that actually about the process. That when I think I had like the first draft or something, I was like playing about with it, and there was the HarperCollins website, Autonomy.
Yeah,
and it was basically like a website for aspiring writers. You put your work up and you critique each other's work, each other's feedback, and that. And that did form the manuscript a lot. Took a lot of comments on board from other people who were critiquing my book. And there was Nathan was a member of that. That was before it'd been published. And I think we used to like chat in the forums occasionally. We'd reviewed each other's books. We liked each other's work and that. Mm-hmm. And then years later, like last year, out of the blue, we contacted. We've still been kind of like semi in touch on Twitter, but nothing major. And then he contacted me out of the blue and says, I'm starting this press up. I said, I remember your book, like Baggage Carousel. Did you ever get that picked up? Or no, what the hell is like? He says, we'd be like happy to take a look at it for you. And then that's how it came to me, really.
Kind of went from there. So I mean, you say that, did I heckers like? But did you put it out there? Did you?
Yeah, I did. I had like submitted it a few times and that. I had a bit of interest, because you send off like the partial, don't you? The first 3 chapters of. And then a few like requests for a full, but nothing ever came to fruition.
Did you get any like feedback on it or anything from any of those things?
A couple of people said I quite like it, but they'd always like express some negative. But mostly you don't get no response at all, do you?
No, you often don't. That's why I wondered, like you say, if they're asking for the full manuscripts and stuff. I mean, often if they take for the full manuscript, but then they don't take it on, they normally come back and give you some kind of feedback, even if it's just like, we like it, but we don't know what to do with it, or we can't place it, or whatever is the phrase that they often use.
Yeah, like those kind of things. But you get the odd email like that.
I mean, I can imagine that to a certain extent with your book, just from the point of view, like, obviously, I was hoping that, Obliterati, knowing how polished and media savvy that those guys are, I thought they might have like told you like a pitch or said, oh yeah, you want to say it's like this or that, but obviously, it is, joking aside, it is quite difficult to kind of pinpoint exactly what genre it is and all that kind of thing. So do you think that was one of the things that might have held you back a bit with like mainstream publishers? Do you think it was a case of like, well, hang on, we're not really sure what this is?
It could have been, thinking about it now, but I don't really know, because like you just get those responses and you don't know if they're actually addressed to you, like it's been written to you, or if it's just like a standard rejection, do you? So
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, and that's what's great about Obliterati and other small presses like that, where they can go, well, we like this, so we're just going to put it out anyway, regardless of what genre or anything else what it is. We don't really care if it's good, sort of thing. So what did so what did you, so when they picked it up, when they wanted to look at it and all that kind of thing, what had you sort of given up on it in your mind, or where were you with that?
Yeah, more or less it was just basically like a file on my computer just gathering virtual dust, like, so I turned the corner on it, really. So it's nice that it's got to see a bit of daylight finally.
And did you have to do many revisions or much editing before Obliterati published it? Did they have a lot of changes, or was it pretty much ready to go?
They were quite happy with it, because I think because it's so like over the years I've like tweaked it so much. It's pretty like finely tuned now.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You have to do a great deal. Just a few like formatting issues that they're sorted out.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, obviously, like you say, it's good that you obviously hadn't edited the life out of it. You obviously got to a certain point and then put it away. So, did you know, once you'd like finished it, obviously you didn't get it picked up straight away or whatever, and like you say, you whacked it on your hard drive. Did you then think, right, I'll write something else now, or not?
Yeah, I had a crack at a second book as well, and I think like Obliterati, contractually they've got the dibs on that. But I think they probably want to see how the first one goes first.
Yeah.
Commit to that.
But you weren't. It didn't put you off the actual act of writing and stuff.
No, because I think like your first you'd be pretty fluky to get your first novel published anyway, wouldn't you? So I didn't like take it to heart or anything. The rejections, you just think like, oh.
No, to be honest, most people, the first book they get published is not their first book. You know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I mean I've spoken to loads of people on here, and sometimes it's their fourth or fifth book or something.
Yeah, definitely. I think people get a bit like, the publishing companies or the agents, whatever, they don't understand my artistic vision. Sometimes I used to hear those kind of conversations like on the Autonomy website.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might have some merit, and sometimes think, well, maybe your book's just shit. You don't really know, do you?
No, I know, but I think that's the question that every writer asks themselves, like every single second that they're writing. As you type in it, you're like, well, this is shit, this is shit, this is shit.
Yeah.
or is this shit? At least asking the question.
That's why it's good to get like positive feedback, because it get some like vindication for how they don't.
Absolutely. So you obviously got all that feedback on the Autonomy website. Do you, in terms of like when you're writing in general, I mean, have you got like people you kind of, trusted readers or whatever? Have you got people that you share your work with anyway, or people that give you feedback on stuff?
No, not at all. I just like do it like secretly and like throwing it away. That's why I think it worked better in the context of the Autonomy website, because it's like they're not actually people you're seeing face to face, aren't you? So you're like putting it out there, and I'd feel embarrassed like showing it to a mate or something like that.
Okay, let's pause there to take a quick break and grab a review in this week's Book Bloggers Corner. Today, Catherine Sunderland, aka Bibliomaniac, is reviewing How I Lose You by Kate McNaughton.
This is the BBC Book Bloggers Corner.
How I Lose You by Kate McNaughton. This is a beautiful read which is not only full of heartache and heartbreak, but also full of heart and warmth. It's an emotional read, and yet despite the palpable evocation of grief and loss, McNaughton has balanced it with a story that offers hope and acceptance. This is a story about Eva and Adam, but we know from reading the front cover that it's not going to be a happy one. From the opening, as we are only just beginning to get to know our protagonist, we are faced with Adam's death. And Eva, confident in love and comfortably settled with a future, suddenly finds herself alone and adrift. Adam dies in his sleep after a night out. I found this a really interesting plot point and thought that the moment at which Eva realises he's dead was very well handled and presented. There is no sensationalised accident or emotive dramatisation of Adam being a victim of someone else's mistake or malice. There's no lingering illness or suggesting that Adam is in any way at risk of dying. She just suddenly awakes to find he has ceased breathing. It's powerful. Throughout the novel, McNaughton's writing feels authentic and real. Eva's character is well crafted, always believable, and McNaughton manages the balance of evoking the various stages and degrees of Eva's grief with conviction and sensitivity. There were some scenes that were incredibly powerful, and there were some sentences that stopped me in my tracks. There are also some lines that are so resonant and thought-provoking that any reader will be challenged to consider their own mortality and the feelings they have for those around them. I really enjoyed the mix of dialogue, passages which told the story, and then the interjections of more direct, perhaps more philosophical or poetic passages as Eva muses or tries to accept her situation. I like this novel because there are so many elements to it. I liked Eva's physical journey as she seizes upon a random email in Adam's inbox, leaps to conclusion and takes it upon herself to follow the source. expecting to find one answer and actually finding something she could never have predicted, just as she has been unable to see the direction her life was going to take at the beginning of the story. I liked Eva's emotional journey as she grieves, has to deal with everyone else's grief and tries to rebuild her life. I liked the mystery surrounding Adam, who he'd been communicating with and why, and the impact this has on Eva. I thought the ending was very satisfying, pleasing, affirming, and right. If you want a story to immerse yourself in, then this is the one. McNaughton's power to entertain as well as move is impressive. This is a special read, and I highly recommend you do not miss out on How I Lose You.
Book Bloggers Corner.
There you go, that was How I Lose You by Kate McNaughton, and you can find a link to that in the show notes, along with a link to Catherine's blog that's packed full of great book reviews and recommendations. Let's get back to my chat with Dave now, where I asked him to tell us a little bit more about the process of actually submitting your book to publishers and agents. Again, for people that maybe haven't got this far in their writing journey, they haven't got to the point where they're sending stuff out. So you talked about a lot of the time it's like 3 chapters and a synopsis.
Yeah.
So did you go through all that stuff? Did you write a synopsis and all that?
Yeah, I did. That's really hard to do. Have you had to go at that as well?
I have. It's horrendous, isn't it? Yeah.
It's hard to encapsulate it, isn't it?
It's really, really difficult. Especially,
yeah.
I mean, some give you a few more words than others. I mean, some are really, really brutal. You know, they want 500 words, the whole novel.
Yeah.
They're like, well, what do I leave in? What do I take out? What characters do they need to know about? What characters don't they need to know about? Yeah, it's really, it is really, really difficult.
I think the trick is with them was some people, they try and make it they try and impress them with the writing style in the actual synopsis, don't they? But you've just got to be describe it really dispassionately, haven't you, I think?
Exactly, yeah.
They try and do it sometimes with a purple prose and that, but they just want a straightforward rendering of the plot, don't they?
Exactly, and you've not got enough words to do it. I mean, I read somewhere that or should I say I spoke to somebody and they were telling me about it, and they said that in general, in their experience, they tend to they'll just start reading the book before they look at the synopsis. They'll read your cover letter or whatever to get a sense, if it's written in crayon or blood or whatever, then they'll probably give it a pass. They probably won't get to the book. Yeah. But they have a quick read of that. Then they'll start reading the book, and mostly they'll know really, really quick, as regards whether they're going to read on or not. They'll know if you can write or you can't write, or whether it's for them. And then if they've then read the 3 chapters and they're interested, then they'll look at your synopsis. Yeah. And I think if you start thinking about it like that, I think it does take the pressure off, because I know when I started doing it, I was thinking, I was really, like you said about putting the purple prose in there and trying to get it to shine and stuff. I was really worried about them just reading the synopsis and never going near the book and thinking, well, I've got to kind of show them that I can write and whatever just in the synopsis. But it's just to see, they want to just see if it plays out, the idea that you've set up in the first 2 or 3 chapters plays out, and that it sort of makes sense. So that sort of takes a bit of it away. So you said about there, obviously, it's quite daunting putting your book out into the world and sharing it with people, and at least in person and all that kind of thing. So obviously you've now got a book that is out in the world that people are actually reading. Probably as we're talking now, people are reading your book. So
maybe.
So do you struggle with that in terms of the self-promotion side of things? And is it
a little bit, yeah, because it's it's just feels a bit boorish, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But, you have to kind of do it, don't you? Because I think when I first joined Twitter, I followed a lot of the aspiring writers. And sometimes they're just bombarding you with spam and that, and so I'd actually end up unfollowing some of them.
Yeah, like the buy my book stuff.
Endless, yeah. So you have to try and on Twitter you have to try and strike a fine balance of maybe do a few tweets about yourself or global events or something, and then slide in a few books.
Yeah, I think it's how you do it though as well. I mean, I saw you've made it. You kind of played on the humour side of things with when you've shared reviews and different bits and pieces. But we've said it loads and loads and loads of times on here. But the thing that people always forget in social media is the social bit. I mean, if you wouldn't do it in public, if you wouldn't go up to somebody that you met for the very first time, in a pub or something, and literally walk up to them and go, "I'm Dave, buy my book." Like then don't do it online because
Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah.
So what's the plan? Like, so going forward then? So what's the plan with? You mentioned the second book. How far are you through that? And
the second book's finished. I finished it yonks ago,
oh, brilliant.
Yeah, but it's quite dark, because the first one's a little bit unsavoury in parts, isn't it? But the second one's even more unpleasant. So I don't know what's going to happen with that really.
Yeah, I mean, there's not too much. I mean, I honestly think the first one is really balanced because of there is so much humour in it. Yeah, some of it is like you say, it's a bit dark, but
yeah. To be honest, when Obliterati were first optioning it, and they sent me they'd done their kind of finished draft and they sent it to me, and I'd not read it for years because I'd put it away. And when I actually read it back, I'm thinking, chuffing hell, I've forgotten about this bit and I forgot about that, and it's surprising what depths I sank to, really. I was quite shocked. I wrote it.
Well, on that, you're going back to what you said before about sharing your work with people that you know.
Yeah.
How have you dealt with that? So, have your relatives and stuff read the book, or at least pretended to read it?
No, they haven't read it yet. I'm trying to think of nice ways to compliment me. Because my mum said it was a bit niche.
That should have been on the back cover.
Yeah.
You're in trouble if they start saying things like, "Well, I really like the font."
Yeah.
The paper's nice.
Yeah.
So the second book, you're hoping you've not got any. Obviously, your first book's only just come out, but your second book's already written. And are you thinking about? Are you already thinking about book 3, or are you having a rest?
I started writing one last year, and then my life got a bit too hectic. I had to put it aside, but it were actually because the first books were kind of a little bit unsavoury and unsettling, and so I wanted to write something where I didn't feel like I wanted to sterilise myself after I'd switched the laptop off. So I started writing something a little bit more innocuous, and kind of a YA, one of those dystopian things, because we really need more of those, don't we?
There's not many. Yeah, people are crying. Well, they are literally crying out for them. But yeah. And how to what?
Well, I didn't get very far, so I'd like to try and get back to that at some point. So we're enjoying writing, a little bit more pleasant to write. Yeah,
something a bit of a release.
Mm.
Well, like I say, I can't encourage people enough to read the book. I really enjoyed it. It is really, really funny. You've got plenty of time to work on your pitch. The book's only just come out. I think you say twisted romance.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
Yeah, twisted romance, boy meets girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I'm not doing a very good job of it either, and I've read the book.
Tricky one, isn't it?
What we should just do is just read the blurb off the back. But it is a great. I mean, they're calling it a visceral yet humane travel log. On the back of the book there, so
that's Nathan's words, isn't
it? Yeah.
Oh, can I just say as well, because I forgot to mention Wayne, because Wayne's getting a bit marked after he never gets mentioned in the end of these interviews. So, hello to Wayne.
Hi Wayne. I'm always mentioning him. I mean,
hey, that's good.
Yeah. Well, I suppose. Well, it's because Nathan's been on more times than Wayne. That's what it is. Nathan is currently. I think he's currently been on the show more times than anybody else.
Oh, he's a record breaker now, yeah?
Yeah.
He overtook that other fellow, Tony Schumacher.
That's it. Yeah, yeah, that's it. So he's probably getting a bit above his station. He's probably lording it a bit. So Wayne's probably right. He probably does need to come down a peg or two, to be fair. So why don't you tell people as well where can they find you online and more about your book?
Yeah, so it's available exclusively on Amazon, like on paperback or Kindle. And then you can find me on Twitter, Dave Olner. Just watch yourself when you do that one, because there's another fellow called Dave Olner who's a bit of a BNP nut job, so I'm not him.
Well, your actual Twitter handle's Dave Ocelot, isn't it? Or
Dave
something?
Ocelot, yeah.
Yeah, I like
Ocelots.
I'll put it in the show notes so people can find you anyway. But for now, thanks a million.
Okay, thanks a lot, Wayne. Cheers.
There you go, Dave Olner. And in case you didn't pick up the hint in the interview, I loved the baggage carousel and you should definitely download a sample for your Kindle, then buy the book when you realise how brilliant it is. And I'll put all of those links in the show notes over at joinedupwriting.co.uk. That wraps things up for another week, but don't forget you can find the entire back catalogue of interviews on the website. Make sure you subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Overcast, or wherever else you get your podcasts to have the show downloaded automatically every week. Just like and subscribe. Also, remember to get in touch with all your writing news, views, questions or comments and tweet me with where you're listening or why you enjoy the show, and I'll give you a mention in a future show. Until then, thanks for listening. I'm Wayne Kelly. Happy writing and reading, and I'll see you next time.
Joined up writing.